Is the mic on? Yeah. Okay, so hi, my name is Mina. You can reach me online at my website's mina.codes and my Twitter as @Mina Markham. As Gina has, excuse me, good Lord, as Gina said, I work currently at Slack on the growth marketing team, which means that I do not work on products. So all of your bug reports and feature requests do not come to me. I actually work on the website slack.com, which recently did a big overhaul, redesign, and I created a marketing design system for them, which I will talk a little bit about later. But before that, I worked for Hillary for America, which was the campaign to make Hillary Clinton the 45th president of the United States. Spoiler alert, didn't work, but we tried our best. So my introduction to the world of design systems started with a very innocuous conversation. Kyle Rush, the director of the time at the Hillary Clinton campaign, came to me, he's like, and what he meant by we need a bootstrap was we need a pattern library or a design system or something to help us create all these applications more efficiently. He also said, and it needs a really good name. So, excuse me, in hindsight, the name Pantsuit feels kind of like inevitable, because I mean, hello? But I was thoroughly unconvinced when I thought of it. Like it kind of went a little bit like this in my head. It's like, oh no, I can't really call it that. Yeah, I totally can't. No, I really couldn't call it that. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good idea. Like I went back and forth for so long until I finally just kind of uttered it to somebody, like unsure, like that's a brilliant idea. We have to name it that. So the design system that I made earlier this year for Slack is called, oh, thank you. So the design system that I made for Slack earlier this year is called Spacesuit, which really just goes to show that I'm kind of a one-trick pony, but there was thought behind this, because, you know, Slack, their like default or like well-known emoji is rocket ship, yay, and who rides in rocket ships? Astronauts. What do astronauts wear? Spacesuits. I mean, this is how my brain works. Don't just go with it, okay? Like, yeah, it was funny. It was me. Okay, fine. So I've done 2 of these things now, or you can say 3 if you count the major rewrite I made of Pantsuit halfway through the campaign. So surely I know what I'm talking about, right? Surely I know what I'm doing. Yeah, no, not even a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is tell you all the ways that I got it wrong, all the things that I did that I look back on, I'm just like, you know what, that wasn't a good idea. I want to preface this by saying that there really is no one way or no right way to create a design system. There's just a way that works for you and your organization and for your team, your workflow, and the products it should serve. But there are a few community norms that have emerged. So the first one of these norms that I've observed is something that Elise kind of touched on earlier, which is the desire to keep things simple. So according to her, like the component should be flexible enough so that you support its use cases, but it shouldn't be unwieldy or confusing. Okay, so let's take the more fresh example in my memory. This is 2 different components that I made for the spacesuit system for the marketing site. Now, they look fairly similar. They're composed of a couple of different elements: headline, a body copy, and a call to action button. Now, what do you think these 2 things are called? Like, can someone shout out like what you think these 2 things are? Big marketing bubble? What? Okay, no, I actually call them a hero and a section. Now, if you look at them, they probably should be the same exact thing. They're very, very similar. The difference is that the headline on the top one is just slightly bigger, but that doesn't have to be built into the component itself. That could have been applied with the utility class or a slightly like modifying class. Like really, these 2 things should be combined and should be one object. So why aren't they? I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking when I made these 2 separate things. Probably what happened was I was looking at the designs as like page per page and not thinking systematically, which I know better. I've done this before. I really shouldn't have done that. But I was probably looking at designs page per page and just coding as I went. And then when I went back and looked at the whole system later, I was like, oh, wait a minute. These two things probably should be one thing. So something similar happened when I made this component that I called a panel, which basically is a box that has a icon or an image with some descriptive text inside of it. Now, these are all the same component, but they're actually made up of 4 different parts. One being the outer panel itself, the other one being inner like media object. Then there's a panel title, and then a modifier called title plain title. And what the plain does is it removes that little caret you see at the end of the title. But if you notice that one of those titles, the one in the middle, actually doesn't look the same as the other 2, and yet they're both a panel title. So clearly something weird happened there, some component drift happened. Now, part of the problem with this component is that it's way too generic. It's basically just a white box with a shadow behind it. Like, it probably shouldn't be its own component, because then people try to sandwich and shoehorn a bunch of different things in it, and you end up with this slightly off but kind of sort of similar styling like you see here. And I figured this out like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after I initially built the component, but by that time we had created such velocity and, deadlines are real, that I couldn't go back and fix it. And I just I really should know better than this, because I've actually done this before. I did this 2 years ago when I worked at Hillary for America. So I took some designs like this. These are some various different pages, various different layouts on different products for Hillary Clinton's website. And I would look at this and I would start abstracting out or defining several different components. So if you look at this, you probably will see a couple of patterns emerge. So I saw what I called a card element, which was a image with some text below it, but common components like buttons, inputs, drop downs, of course, typography, and some highlight style. So I'm used to being able to abstract out some components and create more of a unified UI system, which then translated to our designers, who created a sketch file that they could then use. And for the most part, wow, that is really jerky. So for the most part, this worked out pretty well. But because I wasn't as context agnostic as Elise suggests we be, I ran into some problems here when I tried to put them in various different contexts. Some of these components had margins and padding and sort of layout things associated with them. So when I tried to create the same form in 5 different contexts, I ended up with some really funky problems happening. Okay, so you'll see this component is made of 3 same basic elements. It's headlines, various different inputs, and an action, which in some cases usually is a button, but you'll see down that bottom left, left for you, there's actually a text link. That's the action in that one. And because I still had the same basic makeup of this particular component, but I was trying to shoehorn these things into different contexts, and I didn't account for these different contexts, I ended up with some really weird code happening in the repo. See, someone say, oh my God, yeah, that's how I felt too. This was terrible, and I still to this day feel really, really bad about it. But given the nature of the environment I was in, we had more of a kind of do it fast and let it go mentality happening. But because of situations like this, trying to change anything in that CTA component usually resulted in a kind of weird, really devastating domino effect happening. So the verdict of me being able to keep it simple, pretty much got that one kind of wrong. So the second norm that I have observed is the need to favor community over control, favor creating collaborative design versus one single solitary person. And this norm comes from a really good article that Nathan Curtis wrote about team models and design systems. So he says that a solitary model is basically one team creating a system that works for them and then trying to have onboard other teams to use it, which is essentially what I did at HFA, or Hillary for America. I built the initial design system to serve one purpose, the team that I was on, and then we decided to open it up for everyone to use, which meant that for the entirety of the campaign, the design systems team, or the Pantsuit team, was just me. Or as Nathan calls it, a unicorn overlord, or as I personally like to envision it, something like this. Now, we didn't really set out to do it this way. It just kind of happened organically. You'll see when I first started on the campaign, the tech team in its entirety looked like that. It was about, 7 or 8 people? Actually, it was much smaller. When I joined, it was about 4 people. And of those 4 people, I was the only person who had the skill set to even attempt to make something like a pantsuit. So it became my responsibility. And as we grew very rapidly. As we grew and swelled to about 80 people, the need to keep the system and to keep the velocity of the project was overridden by the need to make more projects and to create other applications that were basically more important than creating a design system, which I know is blasphemous to say at a design systems conference, but we had very limited resources and not a lot of time, and so this became kind of it was an internal only project that only our engineers would truly use. So the decision was made to allocate resources to other projects and just leave me to do this in addition to everything else I was doing. So it was my job to build this system that in the end served 55 products that we built in 579 days that was used by approximately 80 people. So what that meant was I had to get very used to shipping things quickly and kind of setting it and moving on, which is how those things happen, like the CTA code I showed you earlier. Because truth be told, if we didn't ship our product on time, we probably shouldn't ship them at all. We were very deadline driven by things that were external to anything we were doing, like debate days, caucus days, election days, things that could not be changed no matter how hard I tried, how hard I begged. So I needed to ship and ship fast. So the first version of Pantsuit that I made was made in approximately 6 weeks, and that's from doing the UI audit and getting buy-in to rewriting the code base entirely, doing a one-to-one UI recreation with clean code because I wasn't allowed to change anything for reasons to do with experiments and A/B testing, and creating a new sample project that other engineers could see using Pantsuit and document everything. All that had to be done in about 6 weeks, which is not a lot of time, but also felt like really, really long in campaign years. That was probably the span of 3 different projects in campaign years. So my point is, the solitary model worked for us because of the velocity we were moving at and the resources that we were working with at the time. But I didn't screw everything up in that situation. What I did was I created something I called a Pantsuit Council, which consisted of all of our stakeholders and partners and support members for the team, for a Pantsuit. So it looked a little bit like this. I would sort of preside over this meeting we'd have once a week, and representatives from each stakeholder in design and DevOps and front-end ops, they would be there to help me. We would kind of talk about the state of the system, what they were building, should it be added to the system, things that I updated, things of that nature, which really closely resembles the federated model that Nathan talks about. So really, I guess I'll say my verdict for being able to value community over control is kind of all right. Like in the beginning, I was basically like the overlord dictator, but in the end, I tried to do as much inclusion and collaborating as possible. One of the last things that, one of the other norms that I have seen is being able to share your knowledge. Like this whole conference is about sharing your knowledge. But what that usually means in the world of tech is that you need to do open source. Gina herself says that open source designers contribute to the web in a large way by putting the work out there for others to use. And many, many people follow suit. There are so many examples of open source design systems that we all have seen and have learned from. But you will notice that there are two logos missing from this slide. Happen to be the two places that I work. There is no Hillary for America and there is no Slack. Ironically, when I wrote the Pantsuit blog post, the intention was to open source the project at the same time. Now, for several reasons, that was not possible. The main one being the advent of fake news, something that I did not anticipate having to deal with, but impacted the work that I did. Now, fake news sometimes was pretty innocuous. It was just people writing articles and getting things so very wrong. Like this one reporter who decided that our tech stack included using Greenhouse as a CMS, which I don't even know if that's possible. Like, no, that's not true. I know that's not really true at all. But sometimes the fake news was more insidious and had a direct impact in the way I did work. Towards the end of the campaign, there was a sort of guerrilla campaign on social media to encourage people to vote for Hillary Clinton via text message or hashtag or Facebook lights, or pretty much any means that was not how you actually vote for president. The idea was that if they could convince enough people that this was a new thing, that they would be able to suppress votes for Hillary. And they did so using our brand. You'll notice here, these are some official social media posts that we had, encouraging people to text us via text message, or to text us via text message for things like entering contests or getting information about the next time that she'll be in town, or enter contest to meet celebrities. But some people tried to take this and encourage people to do activities that were not going to benefit them in any way. You'll see here, so you'll see here a couple of different fake posts that were put out that were trying to mimic the Hillary brand, but telling people to not wait in line to vote via hashtag, or vote from home via text message. And of course, this was just a blatant lie, but they did so using our fonts, our color palette, things that were very much trying to resemble an official campaign advertisement. I was lured to this because people were actively trying to download the font from our website. Someone came to me and was like, can you hide our font, or can you do something to keep people from downloading it? Which at that point, we had like dozens of applications in production. I didn't feel comfortable making a change like that because I didn't know what would break. So I made the decision not to do that, knowing that this probably would happen. You can say whether or not that was a good decision in hindsight, but that was what happened at the time. And you'll see I saw something like this, where a person created an entire fake website looking very similar to our official site, encouraging people to vote online via this site. Now, what they did with the information they collected, I can only imagine, but I can only imagine what would have happened if I actually had open sourced the library as I had planned. It would have been so much worse. Now, with Slack, I also wrote an article describing the process of redesigning and creating a new design system. And what I learned from writing this post on a brand like Slack that has lots of people, lots of eyes looking at it, and also what I learned from working for Hillary is that people have a lot of opinions about the decisions that I make and how I do work. Sometimes they're pretty good opinions. When I wrote about both Pantsuit and Slack, I got a lot of warm, friendly comments saying how much they enjoyed reading the article, how much they liked the work. I get invited to talk about it at conferences. It's a good thing. But sometimes I get exposed to not so friendly opinions, and opinions, This phenomenon happened after I wrote the Pantsuit blog post, and people became aware that I was a developer for Hillary Clinton, is that I started getting a lot of shit online from for lack of a better term, fascist, telling me that I, shouldn't exist, or that, I couldn't possibly be as talented as some people think I am, or whatever. And what made me, I first started to think, what do these people hate about me the most? Was it me being black, me being a woman, a black woman, or is it just the fact that I work for Hillary that they hate? And while I try to adopt this, haters gonna hate mentality about everything, it is really hard to do so when people are talking about you personally and specifically, and creating entire forums on Reddit talking about how much you suck, and trying to actually hack me and to dox me in an effort, it wasn't really about me, it was more an effort to break into Hillary's website through me. So I was more of collateral damage. But it didn't stop them from insulting me along the way, even with things like as innocuous as creating a kind of fun Easter egg in our code base. They're like, this couldn't possibly have been written by me, which this isn't even that hard. Like, what do these people think, that I don't know anything at all? Just like, really, what is your problem? So yeah, I guess my point with that is that, Reddit is kind of a wasteland. But it doesn't really end there. After the campaign was over, I made a update to my LinkedIn saying that I help fight fascism in America. You should hire me. I did it as a joke, and I just tweeted it out because I thought it was funny. And I got a lot of people telling me, no one's gonna hire a failed libtard. Like, for one, I wasn't serious. And two, really? Okay. I thought this was really funny because in the same thread that they were telling me that no one wants to hire me, it was full of people trying to hire me, like hundreds of comments saying, you should apply to work here, littered with, no one wants to hire you. It's like, really? Okay, so this next one I will present without comment because it's incredibly hurtful, and I only put it up here so that you know the kind of things I was dealing with. Yeah, people are great, aren't they? So yeah, Twitter, also a wasteland. Doesn't really end there either, though. When after this past January, Cosmopolitan magazine interviewed me and 9 other women on the campaign to ask us about what our experience was and what the next step were leading into the inauguration. It was a pretty innocuous article just about how we were feeling and if you had a job yet, are you looking, blah, 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 blah. And even then someone felt the need to tell us that we should go away and stop talking, and no one wants to hear about our lives anymore. It's like, yes, thank you so much for the opinion that nobody asked for. So yeah, Facebook, also a wasteland. But really, just the internet is a wasteland. One of the things that I learned from Secretary Clinton is that these kind of personal attacks are meant to crush your spirit, are meant to keep you from feeling adequate and feeling like you can contribute to society. And she didn't back down, and I'm not gonna back down either. So when people have this tendency to make working for Hillary Clinton feel like a really, really bad thing, but what I want you to know, I never felt more loved and supported and respected than I did the 18 months I worked for her. So when I get opinions and people in my comments telling me that, who are you and what are your credentials and are you just a novice? I try so hard to do what Michelle Obama said and to go high when they go low. But you know what? Sometimes I cannot help myself. Okay, so if I were to grade myself on, sharing my knowledge, I would say open source, yeah, I kind of failed at that for legitimate reasons. But I did put out my thoughts in written form on a blog post, so that was pretty much okay. And the fact that I continue to go on stage and go in front of people and tell them my experience, despite there's lots of people telling me they don't want to hear from me anymore, I think that's pretty damn good. So I'm going to go ahead and grade myself as, yeah, I did that part right. So the final verdict of doing things the right way, according to me and what I've observed, is that keeping it simple, yeah, I pretty much failed at that one. Valuing community over control, I think I did that one kind of all right. I did do most of the work by myself, but towards the end, I tried to get more people involved and collaborate, so that was okay. And the fact that I'm still sharing my knowledge a year later, I'm gonna go ahead and say that's a win. So this last part, there is one more thing that I kind of did wrong that a lot of people told me I did wrong at the beginning, and that is responding to this email that was asking me to apply to work for Hillary Clinton's campaign. This was before she had announced, so it was very vague, very kind of secretive, and we, as developers and engineers, get a lot of like recruiter spam. And I don't know what made me reply to this was the fact that she mentioned someone I knew, but this replying to this email felt kind of wrong, but in the end, it sort of changed my life. And just for the record, go ahead and insert your email joke here. Yeah, it's not really funny, but people keep telling me it, so just go ahead and get your laughs in now. So one of the things that you would say that I did wrong was that taking this job at the time I took it made no sense. I had just started working for IBM Design, as Una said. I'd been there for less than 6 months. And so to take the job working for Late for America, I had to quit the job that I had just got. I had to break the lease on the apartment I just rented. I had to sell the car that I just got. I had to clean out my bank account. I basically dropped a bomb on my life in Austin and said, I'm gonna go try to do this thing, which felt like a really bad decision at the time, but also a really exciting decision. So the 18 months that I spent there, I learned a lot of things. I remember a lot of things. Like Winnie, who was our campaign office, or our campaign office dog / therapy dog / kind of unofficial mascot. She became famous in her right a little bit. This photo was from Time magazine, and it wasn't even about me. It was about Winnie. I just happened to be in the photo. There was a lot of booze, so many booze. This was during a celebration of marriage equality passing in the Supreme Court. We got a lot of champagne and had fun that day. I remember lots and lots of junk food, like so many Oreos and treats around the office. And I contributed a bit to this problem. Like there was so many pizzas, so many fried chicken all over the place. Then there was my contribution, lots of cakes. I made a cake for the 4th of July, the American flag cake. I made a cake for Halloween that was filled with candy corn. And I even made a fried chicken cake for one of my coworkers' wedding. Okay, the reason it's a fried chicken cake is because he loves fried chicken, and the cake is cornbread, mashed potatoes, and gravy, so it's not like a sweet thing. It was delicious and people loved it. I also remember meeting former presidents. President Bill Clinton came around, and he was wonderful and charismatic and told really funny stories. I remember seeing the website that I created, the URL, on the side of a plane. I remember probably the coolest thing I will ever do, which was demoing the redesigned HillaryClinton.com to Secretary Clinton herself. If you'll notice, she is sitting on my desk, and that threw me through a loop because I was not expecting that to happen. So I looked over and she's sitting there just staring at me. I'm like, okay, and we're gonna keep it moving. And even after it was over, I remember seeing lots of little kids writing messages of thanks and of love and support on the sidewalks, which was really, really needed and really hopeful after a particularly bad day. I remember seeing the people of New York putting up all these Post-its for a subway monument. Inside of one of the subway stations, they put a bunch of Post-its of resistance and love and support. And I remember the last time I saw Hillary Clinton, which was 3 days after what probably had to have been the worst day of her life. And she spent her entire time thanking us and supporting us, her staff members, and saying that, you take some rest, you've earned it, but back out there and keep fighting. She wrote us a letter that I still have framed in my desk. She gave us all a rose. And those glasses that are on the desk right there, it's kind of a funny story behind it. Without going into too much details, they are a replica of the SAS glasses that Gina designed that were worn by Hillary Clinton for reasons I can't tell you, but I own them now, so that's kind of cool. But I also remember just lots of joy and laughter and excitement and just lots of warmth and love. But really what I do remember a lot of is a lot of enthusiasm. And I hope the sound's gonna play on this and not be too loud, so we'll see.
I believe that she will! I believe that she will! I believe that she will win! 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 I believe that she will win!
Yeah, I think I found the enthusiasm for Clinton right there. So, of all the things you can say that I did wrong in the past couple of years, taking this job was definitely not one of them. Because I can say that during the election of 2016, a very consequential election, I was right there in the middle of it, trying to do my best and use my work and use my skills to create a better world for us. Because, literally, I was actually right there. Can you see me? I'm right up there in the back. So when I look back and when people ask me, would you make this same decision again? Would you make this same bad decision again? I would say, you know what? Yeah, definitely would. All right, and thank you. That is all I have.
I feel the same way in my head every time I get on these chairs. It's always a struggle. I'm doing this for you all. So you showed a lot of really joyful moments there at the end, and I loved that.
Yes.
What is your absolute favorite memory from your time at the Hillary for America campaign?
It's probably cheating to say the time I demoed for Hillary, so I'm not going to say that one. Probably March 15th. Can you guys? There we go. Okay, so March 15th, 2016. It was the day that we won all five primary contests we had that day, and we all stayed up in the office celebrating, dancing, and drinking until about 4 a.m. It was a lot of fun. I have video footage from that day. I am actually not allowed to show anybody. It was an incredible time. There were lots of people who were dancing on tables. There was lots of champagne sabering, like I've seen you do for now. It was a great time. And that's probably one of the fondest memories of my life, was just screaming and shouting and celebrating. That video that I showed was actually from March 15th. We kind of stood on tables and chanted and jumped and screamed that chant a lot that day.
So lots of enthusiasm there.
Yes.
How did you manage your time with so much going on and single-handedly supporting this design system for so many people?
We worked 7 days a week. That wasn't just me, that was the entire campaign. But we worked 7 days a week for about 4 months straight, and then we did it again towards the end of the campaign. And I lived purposely 4 blocks away from the campaign, so I stayed at the office really late because I knew I could walk home. So I basically kind of just lived in that building for about a year. So I don't really know if that's effectively managing my time, but I basically just didn't sleep for a long time.
That's rough.
Yeah.
So my biggest question to you is, how did you stay so positive with all of the stuff that you went through? I'm just constantly impressed by your positivity through it all.
I laugh now because I really can't do much else but laugh about it. The way I got through it at the time was remembering the end goal. Because the interesting thing about working for a campaign like that is everyone in the building has the exact same goal. Most of the time when you're working in an organization, people are there for different reasons, but this one, like, we were all there for the same reason. So keeping the end goal in mind helped me to kind of block out everything that wasn't going to help me do my part to achieve that goal. Also, I have a very extensive mute filtering happening on my Twitter right now. So like there's a lot of tweets I just don't see because I make very heavy use of automatic blockers and keyword filtering. And after a while, I just stopped paying attention to the news and to social media because it was just a lot of outside noise that was not helping me to keep my eye on the prize. So ignoring it helped a lot, but also just remembering that I was working towards a larger goal. And now I find it funny because I can say, like, the past year, I've had a lot of, like, opportunities come my way that wouldn't have happened had I not done this. So it was painful, but in the end, I think it helped me.
So that's a pro tip from Mina Markham, just mute everything.
So no, really, mute everything.
Thank you so much, Mina.
Yes.